Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is September 10th, 2025. What an honor to be part of a community that for 5.5 years, every weekday morning, finds each other, cares about each other, learns over and over again, and so much so that we count how many times we've come together. Penny, thank you. It is broadcast 1386. Kate and Tara, it's good to see you. Arlene and Ivy, Boker Tov. Linda and Judy, Barry and Jonathan. Good morning, friends. It's good to see you. Let's see who else is here. We'll say a few more hellos before we sing a bracha and then learn some Torah. Lydia and John, Dale and Amy, Corinne, Debbie, Arlene, and Marcia. Boker Tov, everyone. Okay, let's take a breath. Continue to share what's going on, showing up, saying Hineni, as Arlene and Marcia both just did, as Cecile also did. The Hineni moment, which we are focused on, especially because the high holidays are coming, where we say Hineni. What an amazing thing it is to have this opportunity to say, I'm here. We're here. Wherever we are all here together. We've learned that over 1,386 broadcasts. So, take a breath, everybody. Let's sing a bracha, then we'll learn some Torah. Here we go. Haley, you are recovering from surgery. Thanks for sharing that with us. Sending you healing and strength. All of us are. Just got to take care of one thing. My apologies for interrupting our broadcast, but some of you might have seen a bot just tried to place an ad on our comment thread. It tells you you've succeeded when that happens. All right. So here we are, friends, Parshat Ki Tavo, and it is a series of blessings and then curses at the end of the Parsha, a section that we call the Tochacha. I'll deal with that another time, but what I'd like to focus on is one part that I've already mentioned here. When you enter the land, Ki Tavo el haaretz, the first thing you do is you harvest, and specifically those first fruits that we are blessed to harvest when we finally have a home. The bikurim, the first fruits. When we bring them to Jerusalem and offer them before the priest as an offering to God, we recite a formula. Now, I've mentioned that already this week. But this formula is familiar to us through the recitation at the Seder, but also because it's our story. So I want to read the entire Hebrew, and then the translation, and then make an observation that might be interesting for us to consider. The Hebrew of this formula starts with Arami Oved Avi. This is what we've spoken about. and I'll translate it without interpreting it in a more modern way. So, my father was a fugitive Aramean, Arami Oved Avi. Vayered Mitzrayma vayagar sham bim'at me'at vayisham legoy gadol atzum varav. Here's the translation of it, and this is the JPS translation from 2006. My father was a fugitive Aramean. He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there. There he became a great and very populous nation. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried out to God, the God of our ancestors, and God heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. God freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm, and awesome power, by signs and wonders, bringing us to this place and giving us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. You and I know the story. This is the story that we tell. We certainly tell it at Seder. It's the archetypal moments of our story, but I want you to notice what's there and what is not there. First of all, my father was a wandering Aramean, and then he went to Egypt. Well, which one are we talking about? Are we talking about Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef? Which ancestor are we talking about? And among the things to realize is that that's only some of the story. It's a skimming of the book of Genesis by mentioning one person. And there's great debate in Jewish tradition. Are we talking about my father, the wandering Aramean? We know that Avram came from Aram Naharaim, so it could be about him. But there's another translation of these words. Arami Oved Avi, an Aramean, sought to destroy Le'abed, my ancestor. Who might that be? That might be Jacob. But regardless of who we're talking about, and which dynamic, either wandering or persecuted, each has its own wisdom here. It's important to see that only part of the story is told. And then it says, we went down to Egypt and we became a great people. The Egyptians were harsh. We called out to God and God saved us. We spent, friends, 400 years in Egypt, 200 or so of them in enslavement. So it wasn't immediate that we became a populous part of Egypt's society, nor was it immediate that God heard our prayer and responded. There's a lot missing there. And then God freed us from Egypt with a mighty hand, outstretched arm, awesome power, signs and wonders, bringing us to this place and giving us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. You know what's missing there? Everything. The splitting of the sea isn't mentioned. Sinai isn't mentioned, nor are any of the rebellions, the 7 rebellions that filled the book of Numbers. And that's not to say that this is a bad telling of the story. It is to say it is a selective recounting of our history. So I want to take a moment and just reflect on what it is to tell part of our story. I'll give reference to one of my favorite books beside the Torah. The Princess Bride is my favorite movie of all time, and it's based on a book by William Golding. William Goldman tells a story of having heard the story of the Princess Bride from his father. It's a beautiful story within a story, which is all based on a book that never existed. Because he says there was the great S.M. Morgenstern who wrote The Princess Bride, but I'm telling you, no such book exists. Now, William Goldman tells a story of when he was a young child, when he had a cold. His father would come in and read him from The Princess Bride. And in his telling of this story, he said, I realized when I became older, my father couldn't read. He wasn't literate, but he would hold this book. And he skipped so much of what was in the book because he couldn't read. But he loved me and he showed up and he told me the good parts. So here's William Goldman imagining a story that didn't happen about a book that didn't exist, and he says, my father read me the good parts. So here's The Princess Bride, the good parts. Now that's not to compare The Princess Bride to Torah, though that could be a lot of fun. It is to say that in the telling of our story that we do when we bring the Bikurim, we tell part of our story. It's not only the good parts, but it's only part of the story. And we tell it because we show up. Perhaps the essential elements here that we were blessed to say when we brought our first fruits to the chosen place in our home that we were finally blessed to have. Perhaps by saying, we came from somewhere, and it wasn't always easy, but here I am, and I haven't forgotten. Isn't that a beautiful thing to say? To say to our ancestors who got us this far, we haven't forgotten. It's our turn now. We will show up. And so I want to bless us, friends, in the simplest of ways, to remember that while we cannot tell the entire story, it's impossible. It's impossible. Even though we're called to see ourselves as if we were there, we weren't. Our ancestors had full lives, all of them. And every one of their decisions, small and big, led to the history that got us where we are. Let's take a moment, maybe today, and remember as best we can the story that got us here. Take a second and tell ourselves that story one more time. There will be details we left out, but we'll show up and we'll tell the story. It'll help us feel stronger when we need it. It'll remind us that we're connected to something larger than the self. And may we be blessed to bring first fruits over and over again, because they're always the first fruits of that moment. And there's a story to tell about how they got there too. Let's take a breath. Let's send our hearts to the east. Let's remember the stories that are still being written, please God, with chapters that are happy and hopeful to come. We're praying for our 48 on this 705th day since October 7th. We need them home. We want them home. Kol hon balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefate mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון Virushalayim. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.